Unbelievable betrayal. Pregnant wife soaked by mother-in-law, but her billionaire brother reveals. The room was filled with laughter and chatter, but it all felt like a clanging cymbal to Sarah as she stood in her corner, hand resting on her baby bump, feeling more like an outsider than a guest in her own home. The smell of freshly baked pastries mingled with the sound of clinking glasses, but none of it could drown out the judgmental glares from Evelyn, her mother-in-law. Sarah had planned a cozy celebration for her pregnancy, but having Evelyn turned it into an extravagant display of wealth. It was a grim reminder of how little her values aligned with those of the family she was marrying into. Just as Sarah was beginning to feel the warmth of love and support from her family, everything spiraled when Evelyn walked in glamorous, in a designer outfit that screamed, "Look at me." Welcoming guests with over-the-top flair, she soon commandeered the celebration, leaving Sarah wishing for a hole to swallow her whole. The air buzzed with murmurs of admiration. No one could see the storm brewing beneath the surface. Then it happened. In a fit of arrogance, Evelyn grabbed a glass of sparkling wine and, with a devilish smile, doused Sarah right in front of their shocked family and friends. Cold liquid soaked her clothes, leaving her feeling exposed and humiliated, laughter turning into whispers. Everyone felt the tension shift. Sarah's heart pounded, tears pricking her eyes as she fought to stay strong. Why did she have to be the target of Evelyn's need to showcase status? Before Sarah could gather herself, a sudden burst of energy shattered the atmosphere. The door swung open, and in strode Jake, her estranged brother. She hadn't seen him in years. A billionaire now, he'd once been the family's black sheep, battling demons they'd rather ignore. But with his arrival came a wave of mixed emotions: resentment for abandoning her and pride, knowing he made something of himself. Jake's eyes darted around the room and landed on Sarah, grasping the severity of the moment. He stood tall, eyes blazing, confronting Evelyn with a steady voice as he pledged to protect his sister. "This isn't how you treat family, Mom," he declared, piercing through the tension like an arrow. "We aren't defined by wealth, but by love and acceptance." His words cut deep, unraveling the tightly wound familial facade. "You think money determines success?" He spat, recounting painful memories of their childhood, the burden of their family's expectations, and the addiction battles he faced. The room fell silent as he exposed the chasm running between love and materialism that had plagued their family. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." The air crackled with tension, the once celebratory atmosphere suffocated by the weight of unspoken truths. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. Here was Jake, the brother she adored, now a potent reminder of everything that hurt. As their voices clashed, Sarah's heart raced between loyalty to her husband and reclaiming her dignity from Evelyn's grip. A quiver of hope sparked in her. Could they bridge this gap, or would they remain trapped in their toxic legacy? As the evening descended further into chaos, Sarah realized she stood on the edge of a life-altering choice. Would she strive for forgiveness, nurturing her family, or would she sever those connections to finally breathe? With her heart pounding and her dreams hanging precariously in the balance, she had to decide what truly mattered in the swirling storm of emotions surrounding her. The truth of family, once tightly coiled around societal pride, was ready to be unraveled. Jake's voice reverberated through the stunned silence of the room, his fierce protection of Sarah sending ripples of disbelief through the guests. Sarah felt a flicker of warmth at his words, but quickly spiraled back into uncertainty. Did she really want to confront her mother-in-law and risk driving a wedge further into her fractured family? Evelyn's expression contorted between shock and simmering anger. She looked like a predator, cornered but not yet ready to concede. "You think you can waltz in here and lecture me on family dynamics? You've abandoned this family. Who do you think you are?" she hissed, her voice slick with venom. The tension was thick enough to cut, and everyone's eyes turned to Jake as if waiting for the next explosive eruption. Sarah felt her heartbeat rise again, a panicked rhythm echoing in her ears. Was it really worth fighting back? She felt so small, so vulnerable, and she hated Evelyn for making her feel that way. The last thing she wanted was to turn this moment into a family battleground. Jake stepped forward, the fire in his gaze unwavering. You can't treat people like that, Mom. Not family. Not anyone. It's not about the money you flaunt. It's about love, support, and a safe space. Something you've never provided. A shiver ran through Sarah at his words. She had long dreamed of that kind of acceptance from her family, but it always felt just out of reach, overshadowed by insufferable perfection and cold transactions disguised as promises of care. Yet, here was Jake, claiming that love could conquer this maze of manipulation. Love? Evelyn scoffed, rallying her defenses. What do you know about love? You left us all behind for your rich friends. You think you can just stroll back in here waving your money and expect us to be grateful? You have no idea how hard I've worked to provide for this family. Provide? Jake barked, disbelief audibly tinged with hurt. You call this providing? Because all I see are lives ruined by your superficiality. Sarah deserves better than this, and so do I. The crowd shifted awkwardly, some glancing at their drinks, while others looked to Sarah, whose heart ached at these raw admissions. Jake had fought his own battles. She could see traces of those struggles reflected in his eyes. And in that moment, his commitment to protecting her felt like a lifeline. Choosing vulnerability over pride, Sarah took a step forward. Jake is right. I've tried being a part of this family, but every time I take a step forward, I'm shoved back 3, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. Evelyn, it's not about the parties or the wealth. I want my child to grow up in love, not in the shadow of wealth and spite. The room gasped collectively, an invisible weight hanging in the air as the truth sank in. Evelyn's mask cracked for a fleeting moment, revealing the woman beneath the mother she once wanted, the mother who, in all her efforts to climb the social ladder, forgot how to love unconditionally. As the air thickened, a question stirred within Sarah. Could this confrontation reshape their family? Or was it just the beginning of a deeper fracture? Evelyn's eyes flickered with fury and confusion, her power trembling at the edges. In an instinctive act of defiance, Sarah reached out for Jake's hand, intertwining their fingers as a declaration of solidarity. Family can be built on love, not money, she whispered, mostly to herself. The path forward was unclear, twisted with uncertainty, but for the first time, she felt a spark of hope. And out of the silence that followed, a single thought emerged, a desperate plea for acceptance, a yearning not just for her son but also for herself. What would become of them all as they stood teetering on the precipice of change? Would they find a way to mend the broken bonds, or was the legacy of this manipulation too deep to overcome? Evelyn's gaze darkened, and a tremor of outrage coursed through her. It was as if the walls of the room constricted around them, amplifying the charged atmosphere. Sarah thought she saw confusion fleetingly merge with vulnerability in Evelyn's eyes, but it disappeared too quickly. Evelyn wasn't ready to let go of her armor. How dare you band together against me? Evelyn spat, her voice rising, ripe with indignation. I gave you everything. This house, the clothes on your back, the life you took for granted. Each word hit like a ton of bricks, heavy and shattering. Jake stepped away, his jaw clenched, pulling Sarah along with him. He faced his mother, voice steady but fierce. No one's taking anything for granted, Mom. What we want is a family where we actually care about each other, not just the facade you love to maintain. And, just like that, the atmosphere shifted again. The guests began to murmur, their discomfort palpable. Sarah felt a ripple of awareness as others leaned in, straining to grasp the drama unfolding before them. It wasn't just her fight, it was Jake's too, and now it involved everyone in the room. Evelyn, Sarah started, hesitant but resolute, your love is suffocating. I understand the sacrifices you made, but we've all had enough of money being used as a weapon. We want to feel loved, not like pawns in a game. She felt empowered as she spoke, her voice building strength with each word, each breath. Evelyn paused, her eyes flicking from Jake to Sarah and back, uncertainty mingling in her expression. But then, the anger returned, sharper than ever. You think you can come here, stripping my dignity, undermining my authority? You're nothing without your riches. Riches don't mean a thing if they come with strings, Jake countered, the intensity in his voice morphing into sorrow. We're trying to break the cycle, Mom. But you push us farther away with every insult. Sarah felt the tears prick at the corners of her eyes. This was so much more than a family argument. It was a cry for healing, a quest for connection, yet here they were on the brink of annihilation. I don't want shit from you, Evelyn screamed, her voice shattering the lingering tension. You don't know what real struggle is. You turned your back on this family, you abandoned us. Did I abandon you? Jake's voice trembled, small but still fierce. It was you who taught me that love can become tainted. I'm fighting for Sarah and our child because love should mean safety. It should mean acceptance. Whispers rose in tense waves as guests exchanged glances, the air electric with apprehension. Sarah could feel a shift in the spectators, their loyalty wavering. Just as Evelyn was about to respond, someone cleared their throat. It was Henry, Jake's estranged brother, stepping out from behind the shadows of the crowd. Enough, Mom. His voice was authoritative, cutting through the tension like a knife. The moment hung suspended. Each face in the room turned to Henry, who had always been a wild card. You've mistaken your love for possession, but, in truth, family is about trust and respect. We all want the same thing. So let us start understanding each other instead of tearing each other apart. Sarah held her breath. Could this family transform before her eyes? Was the rift created by Evelyn's grip so strong that even Henry's presence couldn't bridge it? Stop hiding behind money, he shouted, frustration evident. It's time to embrace what we really are. Evelyn's eyes flashed, caught between disbelief and fury. But it was that flicker of doubt that ignited something within Sarah, a hope she never thought possible. Would this confrontation really unravel years of hurt? Or was this just a momentary spark in a long cycle of despair? As silence engulfed the room, one question loomed larger than the rest. Would they find a way to love, or would the family shatter beyond repair? Evelyn's eyes darted around the room, searching for validation. No one moved, their faces reflecting a mix of shock and apprehension. The tension thickened, wrapping around them like cold fog. She looked at Henry, then Jake, and finally settled her gaze on Sarah, who stood next to Jake, her heart pounding. Jake reached for Sarah's hand, squeezing it gently, as if to reassure her that they were in this together. It was a small act, but it made Sarah feel grounded, even as the storm brewed above them. She lifted her chin slightly, ready to hold her ground as Evelyn's fury crackled around them. I built this family from the ground up. Evelyn's voice boomed, resonating in the hollow space. I sacrificed everything for you. I deserve respect. Respect isn't built on fear, Mom, Henry interjected. You think being a dictator can replace love? It can't. It creates distance. Evelyn hesitated, her face twisting in confusion. For a fleeting moment, it was as if the mask she wore cracked, revealing a glimpse of the woman who might have once been nurturing. But just as quickly, she fortified herself, anger boiling just beneath the surface. You think you know me, Henry? You don't. None of you do. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. You've all turned your backs, and now you come here to confront me about how to love? You don't get to tell me how to parent or how to run my life. I loved you, Mom. Jake's voice lingered in the air, thick with emotion. But love shouldn't hurt, it should heal. This isn't about turning our backs. It's about facing the truth together. You'll push us away forever if you keep this up. Guests whispering behind them seemed emboldened by Jake's words. There was a shift, a trembling sense of uncertainty now radiating through the crowd. Sarah noticed a few nodding, their eyes wide with realization. A crack had appeared in Evelyn's fortress. Mom, Henry stepped forward again. You can't keep holding on to a version of love that only exists in your mind. Love is a two-way street. We want to meet you, to bridge this divide, but you have to let us in. We're not here to take anything away from you. The room was silent, the world outside seeming far away. Sarah felt the weight of 100 unspoken words pressing against her chest. She thought of their baby, of the future they were fighting for, a future that didn't have to mirror the past. Evelyn's eyes shimmered. The anger that had poured forth now seemed tinged with something softer, something like fear or regret. What if I've lost everything? What if you're right and I've pushed you all too far? The vulnerability in her tone caught everyone off guard. Henry's shoulders softened. Jake's grip on Sarah's hand tightened as he let out a breath. Hope, fragile and flickering, lingered in the air. Then we can work together to rebuild, Sarah said gently, her voice rising above the silence. We don't want to tear down what you've built. We want to help you see it differently. Love doesn't have to be a prison. Evelyn's gaze fell to the floor, her voice dwindling. I don't know how to change. Then let us help you learn, Jake said, his frustration slowly transforming into something warmer. It's never too late to start over. The room hung in this moment, a fragile stillness, as if the very universe was giving them a choice. Sarah could feel the breath of hope stirring, growing like a soft breeze. But Evelyn still hesitated, trapped in her turmoil. Was this the moment they had all waited for? Would Evelyn take their hands and let them in, or was the darkness too deep to escape? With a heart laden with uncertainty, Sarah glanced at Jake. They were ready to confront the truth, but they needed Evelyn to meet them halfway. Would she be brave enough to step into the light? Evelyn's breath hitched as she stood there, processing the cascade of emotions washing over her like choppy waves. The room felt alive, electric with possibilities, yet heavy with the weight of the past. She'd built walls that felt impenetrable, yet here stood her children, raw and unwavering, asking her to let them in. But could she? For a moment, silence engulfed them. Sarah could practically hear each heartbeat echoing in the air, theirs and her own, thrumming with tension and fear. The guests shifted, hushed whispers floating between them, laden with anticipation. She could feel the heat of their gazes, the anxiety bubbling beneath their calm facades. Mom, Henry stepped closer, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable. We all make mistakes. We've all hurt each other. But breaking the cycle starts with honesty. Let us face it together. Evelyn's features twisted into a mixture of anger and surprise. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to be the monster? Her voice, once powerful, cracked like fragile glass. Each word was a push and pull of emotions, fighting for dominance. Tears pricked at the corners of Sarah's eyes. She could see the trembling foundation of Evelyn's world made of fear and stubborn pride start to shake. No one thinks you're a monster, she whispered, stepping forward, her heart yearning to comfort. But you can't keep your love locked up like a treasure hidden away. It needs light, needs us. Evelyn's breath shuddered. What if I don't even know how to love anymore? The confession rolled off her tongue, heavy like lead. The vulnerability in her voice struck like lightning, illuminating the shadows of doubt that had clung to her for years. Jake released Sarah's hand, taking a brave step toward Evelyn. You're still our mom. We love you, even if it's been hard to show it. Let us help you find that love again, he urged, his tone dripping with sincerity. The struggle raging within Evelyn was palpable, a deep-seated pain that threatened to drown her. Momentarily, her fierce glare faltered, replaced by a flicker of raw honesty. I was scared, she finally admitted, her voice a mere whisper. Scared of losing you. Scared that I built this life and it wouldn't be enough. The sadness hung in the air like a thick fog. Henry stepped closer, his eyes brimming with compassion. Mom, we're not here to take away anything from you. We want to build something with you. It's never too late. But you need to open the door, even just a crack. In that moment, Sarah felt hope blossom. Would Evelyn allow herself to step out from behind her walls? Would she embrace a future where love thrived instead of resided in the darkness? Evelyn's hands trembled as she raised them to her heart, a stark contrast to the once iron grip she maintained on it. I don't know, she murmured, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The room seemed to collectively hold its breath, waiting for a sign, for any movement, for a decision. As the silence extended, a commotion outside interrupted the unmistakable sound of angry voices rising, each syllable sharp enough to cut through the air. Everyone turned toward the door, concern rippling through the crowd. Evelyn, still caught in her emotional web, blinked in frustration. "What now?" she muttered, glancing back at her children, a whirlwind of emotions crossing her face. Sarah felt the pulse of urgency surge. This could change everything. "It might be a distraction," she said, her eyes searching Evelyn for a glimmer of resolve. "But we can't afford to let this moment slip away." Uncertainty hung like a cloud, enveloping them. With a heart full of trepidation, Sarah glanced back at the door, sensing that whatever was about to unfold could either tear them apart or finally push Evelyn to embrace the light waiting just outside her self-imposed prison. Would she step forward, or would they face yet another storm? Evelyn's heart raced as panic twisted inside her. The angry voices beyond the door grew louder, a crescendo of frustration and chaos threatening to break the fragile atmosphere in the room. Was this an omen? Or was it a sign, a distraction meant to pull them from the brink of something monumental? "Let me check," Jake offered, already moving towards the entrance. Sarah reached out, grabbing his arm. "No, wait. Let us stay here. Please. We can handle this together," she urged, although her own uncertainty gnawed at her. Henry inhaled deeply, trying to diffuse the rising tension. "Mom, this is about us. This is bigger than whatever noise is going on outside. We need to figure this out." The air felt charged, thick with desperation. Sarah watched her mother's face the confusion, the struggle. Evelyn seemed to teeter at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Just as the words hung in the balance, the door exploded open, revealing a familiar figure, flushed and agitated. It was their father, Mark, his brow furrowed with worry. "What is happening?" "I heard shouting," he demanded, glancing anxiously at his children before fixing his eyes on Evelyn. Evelyn's body stiffened at the sight of him, her mouth clamping shut as she glanced between her children and the man who had walked out years ago. This wasn't the reunion they envisioned. "Why are you back here?" she managed to say, her voice dripping with a cool disdain. "Dad, you shouldn't be here," Jake spoke up, his words cautious yet firm. "This is a family matter." "We were just," but he faltered, unsure how to explain the tension that crackled like a poorly insulated wire. The air turned electric, filled with unspoken emotions and buried grievances. Mark stepped further into the room, a conflicted expression playing across his face, betraying the uncertainty and nostalgia that seemed to unfold with every step he took. "I heard things. I wanted to make sure everyone was okay," he said, his tone softening, almost pleading. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "You can't just waltz back into our lives like this." "You made your choice," she retorted, anger boiling up again. The children exchanged glances, emotions boiling beneath the surface, feeling the weight of their shared history. But Sarah saw something deeper in her mother's eyes, a desperation for closure, for clarity. Maybe this was the moment when everything could be laid bare. "Mom, Dad is here now." Maybe she began, hopeful that this confrontation could break the cycle. "No, Sarah. This isn't the time," Evelyn snapped, her voice rising. "I can't do this right now." "Why not?" Henry shot back. "You always wanted the truth. Facing it can't be worse than hiding from it." Mark shifted uncomfortably, looking between his children and Evelyn. The silence following Henry's words felt suffocating. It was as if everything had come to a standstill, waiting for the next move in this precarious game of emotions. Then, from the chaos of outside voices, a shouting match broke through the tension. Laughter erupted, but it was unsettling. A figure barged in, a young woman armed with a smirk and fire in her eyes. "What is this? A family reunion without me?" she chimed, clearly enjoying the upheaval she was causing. Evelyn's mouth dropped open in disbelief, her emotions spiraling out of control again. "Who are you?" she shouted, as uncertainty gripped her heart just a little tighter. The woman raised an eyebrow, arms akimbo. "Oh, you'll love this. I'm here to clear up a few things." Let us just say, the past is about to get a little more complicated in that instant. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavy on them all. Would they allow the past to crush them, or could they rise from it, stronger than ever? As Sarah's heart raced, she realized they were standing on the brink of discovery and danger. What secrets lurked just below the surface, ready to break free? The young woman's confidence filled the tense room, casting an unexpected shadow over the confrontation. Evelyn's eyes darted between her, Mark, and then back to her children, weighing the uncertainty of this newcomer's presence. "Who are you?" Evelyn repeated, her voice taut with both confusion and irritation. This wasn't how she pictured legendary family moments unfolding, certainly not with strangers walking into the chaos of their lives. "Carmen," the woman answered simply, a grin teasing the corners of her mouth. "Not exactly what you'd call family, but isn't that the point? We're all family here, aren't we?" Her tone dripped with sarcasm, as if this turmoil was nothing more than a game. "What do you mean by the past?" Jake interjected, his voice strained. "What do you know?" Carmen shrugged, an air of nonchalance in her posture. "Oh, darling, I know a lot more than you think. About your father, and about things that made your family, well, a bit more complex." Mark took a step forward, desperation etched on his face. "Carmen, don't. This isn't your place. This isn't the time for whatever mischief you intend." His voice quivered, revealing a sliver of the man they once knew. Misleading men with charm, Sarah thought bitterly, recognizing the bond they used to share, a bond now fractured, like glass splintering beneath pressure. Trust. Family. Could any of it withstand the secrets that hovered like ghosts around them? Evelyn closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply. "What do you want?" she finally asked Carmen, forcing composure back into her voice. "Aren't you curious? About your past? About the truth behind your so-called perfect life?" Carmen leaned casually against the doorframe, her smile unsettling. "Because I'm here to help you piece together the puzzle. Or, should I say, unleash it?" Mom Henry's voice broke through the weight enveloping them. "This can't just be ignored. What if there's something important in what she's saying?" The urgency in his voice surprised even him, igniting a spark of rebellion that challenged their mother's authority. "Important?" Evelyn threw her hands up, frustration evident. "What about all the important things we've already lost? The lives he discarded?" Bitterness and pain lurked in every syllable, exposing the rawness of her heart, a wound that had never healed. Mark's expression softened momentarily, a flicker of regret passing through his features, but it vanished just as quickly. "We all make mistakes, Evelyn. You know that," he said, guilt lining his words. "Don't you dare." She snapped, her fury suddenly consumed by an inconsolable hurt. Carmen's grin faded, replaced with something unsettlingly serious. "This isn't the ending you think it is, Evelyn. Secrets tend to scream louder than voices sometimes." In the ensuing silence, time seemed to elongate. The weight of those words sunk in, each child caught between loyalty and the desperate desire for truth. It was as though the very walls of the room began to simmer with unsaid things, past grievances, and potential revelations. Unspoken thoughts racked Sarah's mind, her need for answers battling the ache of family loyalty. What if the truth was worse than we imagined? She glanced at her brother, then her father, witnessing the kaleidoscope of their emotions swirl around. "Maybe it's time for some uncomfortable truth-telling," Henry finally blurted, breaking the taut air. "If we're going to get through this, we need to be honest." "Enough," Evelyn cried, her resolve wavering. "I don't know if I can handle this. I can't face more betrayals." Her heart felt like it was fraying, the edges worn too thin, and the room echoed with a silent urgency. Carmen's eyes sparkled with mischief, like she was savoring the chaos. "Betrayals? Oh, this is just the beginning. Trust me, we've got layers to peel back." A chill crept through Evelyn's bones. They stood at a precipice, a fork in the road that threatened to lead them either to devastation or illumination. What more lurked beneath the surface? Would they ever truly piece together their broken family, or would the unraveling go deeper, exposing truths no one was prepared to confront? As they stood frozen in that moment, the stakes could not be higher. Evelyn's chest tightened with each passing moment. Carmen's words were like stones, heavy and unyielding. Silence settled between them, thick and suffocating. The uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos. "Mom, please." Henry's voice broke through, a desperate plea wrapped in youthful determination. What if she's telling the truth? We can't just turn away from this. Evelyn shook her head violently. It was impossible to process. You don't understand. You've always been shielded from the mess of our lives. This isn't just some dirty laundry we can air out. It's family. It's reality, Carmen interjected smoothly, leaning closer. Reality is often messy, Evelyn. I'm merely here to help you face it. Her tone was a blend of condescending mockery and genuine intrigue, like someone inviting a friend to witness a shocking reveal. Mark, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, his voice trembling. Carmen, what do you know? What are you implying? He straightened his shoulders, the familiar protective stance he often took whenever hell broke loose, but this time, it felt like a flimsy defense. Carmen's eyes glittered with a strange mixture of concern and glee as she stepped further into the room, fully embracing the tension. Your father was a complex man, filled with dreams and, let's just say, distractions. You think your family was perfect, but I have some stories that could shatter that illusion. The air shifted, an electric pulse coursing through the room. Sarah could hardly breathe as each word hit her like a wave. The reality of her father's flaws was something she had never considered, never wanted to see. You're lying, she whispered, struggling to keep her voice steady. Carmen studied her, an unsettling smirk playing on her lips. Am I? All I need is one piece of evidence to change your mind. Evelyn felt her heart racing, the beat loud in her ears. She demanded, what do you have? In due time, Carmen replied coyly, glancing at Jake, who stood transfixed, caught between the rage brewing inside him and an undeniable curiosity about the truth. But what do you expect from us? Jake challenged, his voice rising. You waltz in here, throw accusations, and expect us to just accept it? His fists clenched at his sides, betraying his internal struggle. Carmen shrugged, unfazed. I expect you to wake up. To see that all families have secrets, some darker than others. Wouldn't you rather know the whole picture than live in this fairy tale? Evelyn felt as if the ground was crumbling beneath her. Her gaze shifted to her children, each deeply caught in their own inner battles. What was the right choice? What truth did she owe them? Henry stepped forward, eyes wide with determination. If we're going to break these walls down, we have to do it together. I don't want to go back to pretending everything is fine. Carmen grinned, a predator with a plan. Finally. Someone willing to see the light. But remember, once you open that door, there's no closing it. Evelyn's mind raced. Could they really sift through the wreckage of their past? The thought terrified her. She was fearful of what they might uncover. Were they prepared for the truth, no matter how ugly? What do you want from us? Evelyn finally asked, her voice shaky but laced with a newfound resolve. I want nothing more than to see you fight for your family, Carmen said with mock sincerity. But you must be ready to face what's been hidden. The room was thick with tension, each member of the family drawing their own conclusions. As Carmen continued to watch, Evelyn knew the time for decisions was fast approaching. Was she ready to plunge into this unknown? Was there even a chance for healing once the damage was revealed? Before she could respond, Carmen leaned back, a satisfied smile on her face. Let's just say, I'm only here to get the ball rolling. You'll have to figure the rest out on your own. The air grew heavy again, suffocating hopes and fears in equal measure. What lay in store for them? And would they find the courage to confront the darkness of their family's legacy, or would they choose to remain in the shadows? With uncertainty swirling around them, Evelyn faced her family, each silent gaze pleading for direction. Would they unravel the truth and reclaim their bonds, or was this the beginning of their greatest fracture? The questions lingered, echoing in the silence, leaving a chilling sense of anticipation as they stood on the precipice of revelation. Evelyn took a deep breath, steeling herself. The silence dragged on, a living thing that wrapped around each of them. She could feel the weight of her children's eyes, staring with a mix of fear and determination. It was as if they were all waiting for a spark to ignite the tension into something explosive. Okay, Evelyn said, her voice firmer than she felt. If you really have something to say, Carmen, let us hear it. We need to know. Carmen's eyes lit up, as if Evelyn had called for her to take center stage. Very well, she purred, shifting into a more relaxed posture. It starts with a story about your father. She leaned forward, words dripping with allure. James was a man of certain appetites. A few indiscretions that might surprise you. The room shifted. Evelyn's heart sank, but she felt a flicker of resolve. This was the moment they had all been dreading. Yet, there was something about facing it head-on that made the darkness seem less terrifying. Mark clenched his jaw, visibly bracing himself. What kind of indiscretions? He demanded, his voice now powerful and fierce. Carmen tapped her chin thoughtfully, a mock expression of contemplation. Oh, I don't want to spoil the surprise. But let's just say, the last few months of your father's life weren't as uneventful as you think. How do you think he accumulated those offshore accounts? Offshore accounts? Henry repeated, eyes wide. Dad? But why? Why would he control, the thrill of it all? Carmen interrupted, waving away their innocence like a bug. Your father lived in black and white, but he also painted his own shades of gray. You will see soon enough, but you must be ready to embrace the truth. Sarah shifted uneasily. But Dad was a good man, right? He wouldn't have done anything to hurt us. Her voice was desperate, searching for reassurance in a crumbling reality. Evelyn couldn't hold the tears back anymore. How can we trust you, Carmen? You might just be spinning tales, looking to tear us apart. Her mind raced with flashes of family memories, times when they all clung together, laughing, feeling invincible. Were they built on a foundation of lies? I wouldn't blame you for questioning me, Carmen replied coolly. But I'm not the one who hid things from you. I'm merely the messenger. Jake stepped in closer, his blue eyes fierce and unyielding. If you're telling the truth, then let us see it. Show us the evidence. With that, Carmen swung her purse over her shoulder and pulled out a small, worn envelope. I think it's about time these stories were backed up. She tossed it onto the table as if it contained a ticking bomb. It landed with a soft thud, the sound echoing in the charged atmosphere. Evelyn's heart raced as she glanced at her children, each face marked with confusion, hope, and a hint of fear. Open it, Henry urged, his youthful bravery ignited. What's inside? Evelyn hesitated, electricity crackling in the air. They were standing on the edge of something monumental, and she could see glimpses of fear behind her children's brave faces. But did she have the strength to proceed? Questions flooded her mind. What ugly truths might they be about to uncover? Would this shattered reality bring the family closer, or would it unravel them completely? She glanced at the envelope again, its dull brown hue suddenly radiant, holding all the possibilities. Maybe we need to face the truth together, Mark finally said, looking around the room. Evelyn swallowed hard. Together then, she repeated, her voice a whisper of determination mingled with dread. As Evelyn reached for the envelope, a powerful wave of trepidation coursed through her. What would they discover? Would it heal or destroy? Just then, a sudden knock rattled the door, causing the entire room to still, breath halted in anticipation. Who else could be standing on the threshold ready to shift the ground beneath their feet? Evelyn's heart pounded as she froze, hand hovering above the envelope. The knock echoed like thunder, unsettling everyone in the room. This was not just a moment for them, it felt like a pivotal chapter that could turn everything upside down. Stay here, Jake whispered to Sarah, his protective instinct kicking in as he stepped toward the door. Another knock followed, firmer this time. Anxiety ricocheted around the room, and Sarah's breath stalled in her throat. Evelyn glanced at each of her children, their faces lined with the fear of vulnerability. Whatever lay beyond this door could change everything again. Maybe it's just a distraction, she suggested softly, trying to convince herself as much as them. No, Henry chimed in, his voice resolute. We can't keep letting outside forces dictate our lives. We need to face whatever this is head-on. If it's meant to be, let us see it through. Jake reached for the handle, steeling himself for whatever awaited them beyond that threshold. With one swift motion, he swung the door wide open. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the hallway light, was an unexpected figure, an older gentleman with silver hair and a face lined with time's trials. Evelyn squinted, recognition dawning slowly. Dad? She breathed, disbelieving. Mark looked shocked, his mouth agape, eyes wide. James? A collective gasp rippled through the room. There he stood, the estranged patriarch, somehow breaking the barriers of time and distance. All the unresolved tension crawled back to the surface, pulsing like a live wire. What are you doing here? Evelyn exclaimed, her voice a mixture of anger and yearning as confusion washed through her. You left us. You just walked out of our lives. I had to come, James said, his voice deep and gravelly, holding both regret and urgency. There are things you need to know about me, about the past. He stepped further inside, glancing around at the faces he hadn't seen in years. Carmen, ever the disruptor, raised an eyebrow. And you think now is the right time? You've missed a lot. You left them to deal with your mess. Enough, Carmen, Jake snapped, eyes narrowing. It didn't matter what was happening with their father. They were on the brink. This moment could go either way. No, it's okay, James murmured, a weary edge lacing his words. He turned to his children, and something cracked open in his eyes, a hint of vulnerability that made Sarah's heart ache. I see the tension. I know it may be too late to mend what I broke, but I need you to understand that my absence was never about you. I was lost. I failed you all. The room felt electric. Sarah stood, heart racing, but she couldn't dismiss the truth in his voice. Dad, what do you mean? She wanted to understand, needed clarity more than anything, especially now as they stood at the precipice of revelation. James sighed heavily, as if centuries of weight rested on his shoulders. I was involved in things beyond my control, compromising situations that drove me to make choices I'm not proud of. He cast a glance at Carmen, a flicker of resentment passing between them. Things that may not have been clear to you all, but they shaped our family in ways you couldn't comprehend. The air grew thick. Evelyn fought the storm raging inside her. Had this man come to twist the knife deeper, or could he possibly offer them redemption? Why no? She asked, her voice shaking with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Why come back now? Because it's time to face the music, he replied, stepping farther into the room as if reclaiming a lost space. With everything that's been happening, you all need to know how our choices have perpetuated this cycle. It's time to lay it all out, secrets and all. The embers of tension ignited. Evelyn's protective instincts clashed with a longing for the father she'd lost. Is it really over? Can we find a way back to each other? Or is there still more damage along the way? Evelyn's heart raced at the tension unfolding, but she could feel the warmth of her children's presence beside her, a reminder that facing the storm together was their only chance at healing. Let us hear it then, Henry urged, his voice steady. We can't keep running in circles. Let us confront the truth together. James nodded, taking a deep breath, the heaviness of the moment settling upon them all. You deserve to know everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I need your forgiveness to move forward. Every eye in the room locked onto James, a rush of raw emotion surfacing at their incredible crossroads. The truth hovered like a storm cloud overhead, ready to unleash its fury, and yet, beneath it shimmered a glimmering promise of redemption. Let us unravel it together, Sarah whispered, her heartbeat synchronizing with a newfound rhythm. No more secrets. And in that moment, the promise of healing began to unfurl, inviting them to hold on to hope and reshape their fractured family. They had been shown the precipice of their messy history, but together, they could learn to embrace the truth and build an unbreakable bond from the ashes. The silence that followed was charged with the anticipation of a journey about to begin, one that would challenge them all, but could offer them clarity in the end. As they stood poised on the brink of discovery, each member of the family could sense the weight of transformation ahead, genuine hope glowing amid the haze of unresolved conflicts. With acceptance, they would embark on the most daunting journey, yet the path to find each other again. And from that moment, everything would change. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that delve deep into the heart of life's challenges. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Trust me, it makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible journey. And share this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. You never know who might need this message.